All right. Welcome back to the ResQ Show. Christopher Manti. That is Tyrannosaurus. All right. Our awesome new friend, Dr. Jim Beverley, is there and here for
Right
you
down
all.
there.
Awesome guest today. We're very, very excited. Before we get started, want to let y'all know, please visit our website that has all the stuff you would ever want to have. All our episodes will be there, both on video and podcast form. So if you just like to listen in the car, whatever, you can do that. There's also an entire page of resources, places to go, things to consider and look at, Bible verses and all that stuff, and links to actually help us rescue children for real, because we know this is a big deal to a lot of folks here who may be watching this. So go to that site and give to Destiny Rescue and save the children and people who are doing actual real work to save kids. So check that out, please. And throughout the program, we'll be talking about a lot of awesome stuff. So Ms. Taryn, you set this all up. So tell us how you did it. We've got Dr. Jim.
Well, Dr. James Beverley is a very humble and sweet guy, and he just said, yeah, I'll come on your show that just started, that is in its infancy. So we're fortunate to have him. He's a research professor for Tyndale University. He has written 5 books alone this year and many before that. So I checked out a lot of the titles. I even grabbed my husband and said, he wrote a book about Jordan Peterson, which is really exciting. Just about any topic that you might be interested in, I think he's pretty much written a book about, at least once. So welcome to the show, and can we dive right into the QAnon world?
Thanks, Taryn and Christopher. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Praise God. By the way, if you want to talk to Jim, he's on Twitter at Jim Beverley, Beverley, right? And then he has a website also at jamesbeverley.com. Okay, my job is done. Yeah. What do you want to ask, Taryn? Let's do it.
Well, I hope he's impressed, because I put a collection of my latest reading, because he's a doctor, a researcher.
And okay, I can't tell what that is, Taryn. What is that? Oh, very good.
Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah. See, if you sit in front of books, it impresses professors. So put it in there. So why don't you tell us about your research in QAnon and jump in wherever you wish.
Okay, so last summer, about a year ago, I did a column for a magazine on conspiracy theories, and I've studied conspiracy theories my entire career. So I was getting up to date, and then I noticed the prominence of QAnon, and I decided last August I would write a book about it and try to be the author of the first book that was sort of objective and academic without being boring. So I think I started the 3rd week of August, and it came out December 22nd. So it's the fastest I've ever written a good-sized book. And I just got into the topic and have kept going on it. I didn't stop. Since Christmas, I've written a resource guide on QAnon, and I'm currently working on a project on what are the major interpretations of QAnon. So I'm fascinated by the topic. I realized, because it's controversial, that you can't please everybody, so I got treated on some radio shows. I got a lot of nasty comments, but if people say ridiculous things about you, that doesn't hurt too much. If they tell me I need to lose weight, that hurts a little more, because that's sort of realistic. Anyway, I've loved studying the topic. I'm fascinated by it. I'm currently trying to figure out why the major players that promote that November 3rd was a fraudulent election, I'm working on why they believe that. So I'm studying Mike Lindell, Sidney Powell, Patrick Byrne, and one other person that I
Michael
can't...
Flynn?
Michael Flynn, yeah.
Mm.
I think those are the four major players now. Rudy Giuliani isn't in the picture as much. But then there's all the experts that talk with those guys and girls. So anyway, it's fun. I just discovered a new series last night that told a lot of the story about Trump and the last days of his presidency and his fights with his top leaders. Plus, I don't know if you two know about the December 18th meeting where the four people I just mentioned got into the White House and they had a big 4-hour fight with Trump's advisors. So I just read more about that.
Really?
I wish that had been well. Maybe it was taped. It would be wonderful if it got released.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm still studying the topics.
Mm-hmm.
I did know about that meeting. Actually, it's quite disturbing.
Yeah.
The fact that they were there at all or allowed in, like Sidney Powell, etc. Once you get to know these folks, it doesn't really give you a lot of confidence, does it?
Well, actually, if I had to say who I trust the most of those four, it would be Patrick Byrne. But Christopher, why don't you tell the crowd listening in why do you have reservations about Sidney Powell?
I don't want to say anything mean, Dr. Jim. They seem like untrustworthy people who are have a screw loose. To be honest with you, I just looking at public statements that they've made the past, half a year. And Sidney obviously at one time was a high-powered lawyer and
Yeah.
these things. It's just the things that
I understand that point. Like, for example, she would keep talking about the CIA taking over computers in Germany. Well, I just read quite a bit of detail about that, and it turns out that that's probably not true.
most probably not. Yes.
But see, I don't think if she's wrong, I don't think she's wrong because she's crazy or lying. I think she's wrong because she would have been misinformed on that.
Like, I wouldn't want to hire that kind of lawyer who's easily misinformed about CIA operations in Germany. But that's just me, I have a problem with that. The other folks, to me, what do you think? To me, among those folks that you mentioned, Michael Flynn, General Flynn, would be definitely not a crazy person.
Right. Well, Patrick Byrne's not crazy.
That's true too. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't like Trump, didn't vote for him, but thought there was problems with the election, and he's now paid over $5 million of his own money to hire computer people to look at the computer issues. Thankfully, this should all get settled within the next couple of months because Mike Lindell's saying that he's coming out with major proof in the middle of July. Patrick Byrne's documentary, Deep Rig, is coming out. And so I think they're finally going to give the evidence, or the alleged evidence, that shows their big point is that China and other countries hacked the computers on November 3rd and 4th. Now, see, I don't know computers at all. I know how to type on one, but so I get lost in their detail once they, I can hardly spell algorithm. Anyway, those four are I find fascinating. See, you don't have to. I just read a lot last night about Trump's views of things after the election. He doesn't know computers, so he's at the mercy of anybody who tells him reports about election fraud. I mean, he'd understand that, ballots stolen or dead people voting. You can understand that. But when someone says, the PACs in the computer have been affected by IP addresses in China, whatever that means. I know vaguely what it means, but don't ask me to find your IP address.
Right, right, and that what you're saying. That's kind of what the president's point of reference is. Like, I don't know this stuff. I'll believe the experts or the folks who tell me.
Right, and he also is the kind of person, he wants to go to the people that are sharing a view that he likes.
Right, right. If he has the news that he enjoys to hear, then he'll listen to you. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, what a fascinating story it is. What's sad about it, of course, is that it has divided America. I've read at one level, the main thing I've done for a year is study American politics. Well, I've studied about Trump for 5 years, and read lots of books about him and hundreds of articles. But it's sad. As interesting as it is, it's tragic how much this has divided America. People don't listen to one another. They don't talk back and forth carefully and rationally. There's a lot of hate. I just saw the conference out of Dallas where one of the main QAnon promoters imitated Hillary Clinton being hung. What a dreadful reality.
It is a dreadful reality, and that's why we're here, is also to just open the discussion between folks who believe this and that, so that we can at least find some common ground where we can start talking to one another. I appreciated that in your book, The QAnon Deception. It opens with a wonderful blueprint for talking to people
Right.
who we don't agree with, which is really the flower of Western civilization, is reasoned debate and being
Right.
able to sit down and have a conversation, whether you agree with somebody or not.
Right. What's difficult with QAnon is you'd have to agree what QAnon is first before you decide whether you're into QAnon. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, does Michael Flynn, the famous former general, does he believe in QAnon? There's signals that he does. He'll sell Q merchandise, etc. But I saw an interview just a few days ago where he explicitly said he does not endorse QAnon, which I can find. I find that easy to believe, because I think a rational person who really looks at QAnon will be very, very suspicious. But what people do is they think to be pro-Trump is to be pro-QAnon. But you could, like, one of my best friends is a famous Pentecostal minister, Rodney Howard Brown, who's hosting Clay Clark's extravaganza even today. Anyway, Rodney's a famous Pentecostal minister, and he can't stand QAnon, but he loves Trump. So he was the first pro-Trump person who taught me you can like Trump and dislike QAnon. But go ahead.
I can say it at the end. But please finish your thought.
No, that was it. That's fine.
I was just saying I'm concerned that the movement is going to kind of tear the right wing apart.
Well, it's definitely made an impact. I think now people just use QAnon as a quick way of saying that we're all on the same side. So when Lynn Wood draws a Q in the air and talks about Q, what do most people in his audience think that's about? They think it's simply, we're pro-Trump, we don't like Hillary Clinton, we're against child kidnapping, when actually you've got to ask a lot more detail than that to find out if you're really into QAnon. And then even if you accept some basic principles, you still have to ask, Do you think that JFK Jr. is still alive? And Taryn and I were talking the other day about the new anti-Semitism that's becoming a big reality in QAnon. QAnon, I'd call it like a cosmic vacuum cleaner. It takes in almost any theory, and that's one of the problems with it. There's no boundary control. I'm being considered as an expert witness in a court case involving QAnon, and one of the things I'm going to have to figure out is how do you explain to a court or to people not informed, how do you explain what QAnon is and what are the boundaries, and how do you refer to it? Like in the media now, it's regularly said that QAnon is doing this or QAnon is doing that. Like QAnon had a conference in Dallas. So it's hard to know what that means exactly. Like if we say the Catholic Church is doing something, we know what that means because there's a leader in Rome and there's the Vatican and the cardinals. Or if we say the Democratic Party's doing something, we know what that means in terms of Biden and Pelosi. But QAnon it's much more nebulous.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a fascinating reality.
Do you think that's on purpose?
No, well, in a way, you have to ask, what do you think QAnon is originally, and then what did it become? So there's the theory that it's just a bunch of losers in the basement on 4chan, 8chan. Well, originally it was 8chan, wasn't it?
4, then 8, and then
4.
8.
Yeah, 4, 8, and then 8Q. Well, so what it is originally, is it some guys and girls in a basement playing in the dark corridors of the internet, or is it a calculated attempt to be pro-Trump on the internet and get a big following? When I wrote my book, I mainly thought the former. I now think that early on, major Trump supporters who may not have told Trump much about it, but some major Trump supporters were there quite early and really pushing QAnon. You know, Jerome Corsi, for example, who's connected with Steve Bannon and Trump. I mean, he was involved very early. Then he got suspicious of it, but there were a whole bunch of other players as well. I could tell the audience, if you want to read the people who study the connections between Trump operatives and QAnon, you go to like Daniel Morrison, Seth Abramson, and then there's also a guy named Jim Stewartson. Now, Jim knows a lot, but he is so nasty. You have to put up with him. He doesn't give any of his enemies any benefit of the doubt. It's F this, F that. It's complete ridicule, and I don't think he has any. He's not willing to concede any good faith in hardly anyone, and I think that hurts his argument.
Yeah. That's part of what we're running into. Sorry, Taryn, I didn't want to step on you. But like we talked about last week on our first show also, it's like it seemed like, except for Dr. Jim and one or two others, we don't have many, conservative Christian people looking into this at all. It seems like the left has really taken it upon themselves to do the research and do the debunking, which is great and all, but it makes me kind of sad. Like, why are we ceding this to them? So that's why, one of the reasons why I think folks should listen to Dr. Beverley.
Oh, there you go. Thanks, Christopher.
Yes. And buy this book, by the way. I just got it on Kindle. This is the one, the resource guide.
Oh, okay. I haven't even seen that yet.
Yeah, it's really fancy.
Yeah.
2,400 linked news reports, articles, and opinion pieces. I love. This is nerd central. If you want to do the QAnon research, or do the research, right? That's what we're told all the time. This is a absolutely invaluable resource.
Yeah, when I wrote the deception book, I started with the help of a woman named Annette Johnson, and later a guy named Rick Anderson. We just collected articles and put them in chronological order and linked them. So it's a scholar's dream, but no one should buy it unless they're really obsessive. Like, do you really want to know where the 2,400 plus articles are? Last night I was collecting probably 200 more articles since May 10th. It's just astounding, the interest. It's almost like a bulletin was put out, especially after Trump spoke about QAnon last August. The minute he spoke, I think there was a memo in the media world: go study QAnon.
Right.
And whatever you do, quote the FBI saying it's a criminal element, and say that it's baseless, and treat QAnon people like they're just first-rate dummies. It's amazing how that is such a dominant theme. Now, in spite of those stereotypes or extremes, there is an amazing amount of material on the web. It's just almost overwhelming how much material there is.
This is true. Yeah, I mean, harkening back to the new anti-Semitism kind of coming into the movement is, are y'all getting an echo on my voice?
I'm okay with you.
I'm backing up a bit.
That's just the angelic nature of, your voice.
Well, anyhow, yeah, so the Ghost Ezra channel on Telegram had, the last we checked it, Chris, right, 360,000 anti-Semitic members.
Well, had those number of members. How many of them are anti-Semitic is up for debate, but yes, a lot.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah.
What you don't know is how many share his denial of the Holocaust or views that are sympathetic to Hitler.
Right.
I found that just up until him, there's been little anti-Semitism in QAnon. It hasn't been prevalent. There's anti-Semitism on 8kun or 8chan or 4chan, but it's not directly connected to the Q world. By the way, if I could become friends with Joe Biden, I'd like to convince him, or I might even write about this regardless of being a friend. I'd like to convince someone in the National Security Agency or the CIA to go find out who did the Q post. Because the health of American politics is shaped and influenced by those Q posts. So if it turns out that, the traditional theory, Q is a military figure high up working with Trump. Well, it doesn't look like Trump knows about that because he never talks about it. But if the whole Q drops are a result of fraud that radically shaped and harmed America, maybe that's something for the Justice Department to know about. But I don't know. I don't know American law, so maybe I'm going to get arrested and put
that
in
was
prison.
your last meal now, Dr. Jim.
Yeah.
Well, but even if that were to happen, the adherents would probably not even believe it. That's the deep state.
Oh, yeah, you can always come up with an explanation. But I think, it depends how clear the evidence is. One thing that you can tell when you listen to Mike Lindell talk about November 3rd as a fraud, you can tell that he doesn't know how to think like someone or he's not very good at thinking outside of his own worldview. So if you've seen his documentaries or some of his video clips, he'll say stuff without realizing that what's proof to him doesn't work with others. For example, he has a computer expert on. He hides the person's face, does not say his name, and doesn't give his credentials. So it would help him if he thought, what is it going to take to convince people X, Y, or Z? But the same happens the other way. If you read the New York Times on QAnon or go to CNN articles, they basically just dismiss QAnon with claims that it's a baseless, racist conspiracy theory.
I love this point that you just made about, I wish that we could come up with a term for this. But I have seen this over the years more and more, where folks will get into disputes or arguments with one another because they make implicit assumptions about the other person's motives that they don't realize are assumptions. But they're projecting, well, if I did this, I would do it for this reason, so therefore they're doing it for this reason, rather than there are probably a myriad of reasons why this person did this, and it's just a lack of being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Right. Or here's one thing that helps the QAnon narrative: the people on our planet do evil things. So when you hear that children are being kidnapped or sold into slavery, well, you don't have to believe in QAnon to know that that is true in our world. What QAnon's doing is it's taking a general truth that some people are evil and kidnap children, and it's just putting names to it. I was telling Taryn, I now say to people, so you believe in QAnon. Do you really think that Bill and Hillary Clinton are eating the adrenochrome from tortured children while they're having their white wine? You know, did they really believe that? And how could Hillary get away with those crimes when Trump ran the entire government in the first part of his administration? Like, how come, since he's working with Q and Q told us about how bad Hillary is, you would think that Trump would have had Bill and Hillary arrested. But of course, what you do is you just come up with here's an explanation. Trump knew that it wasn't time to arrest Bill and Hillary, and he had to wait to get more deep state operatives like the Pope, for example, or the Dalai Lama. I actually love the theory that Joe Biden is not in the White House and that he is being played by an actor.
Yeah, body double.
That's just such a great conspiracy theory. You know, when I see TV up here in Canada, it sure looks like that's Joe Biden walking across the White House lawn. But then again, with modern technology, you never know what can happen.
Yeah.
So yesterday, I did some reading further on adrenochrome from a scientific article. I could probably link it on our main page. I could find it again. But this was an amazing argument too, which I think somebody in the Q movement would want to hear and consider, or I would anyway. So adrenochrome bovine adrenochrome, so a cow's adrenochrome is pretty much identical to a human's. And the article also made the point, obviously adrenochrome isn't, you can't ingest it from a human body. It's synthetically made. But all that aside, a child's amount that they would produce is so infinitesimal. If someone were an addict, why wouldn't they want a larger human's source of it.
Well,
Because
isn't the theory that
or a cow, like
but isn't it? It's said that the adrenochrome works most powerfully from little kids.
but
So
it's the opposite is true, according to the scientists. It's just they produce a tiny amount. So if someone wanted a big giant stash of adrenochrome in the basement, they would probably want to get it from a cow.
Right.
Just another evidence that the cow is God's greatest gift to man. I did want to touch on this. I do believe that, by the way.
Well, I like beef, but
does that mean you like steak, Christopher?
It does, and anything else basically that I can consume from a cow. Yeah. Any byproduct. So, but this is what wrote me into this whole topic, by the way, which was the kidnapping of the kids, and isn't this terrible? Back in 2018, I took a trip down to the Southeast to be with some friends at a church there, and this is where I first got told about it. She's like, a person came up to me and said, the first thing was, I don't know if you believe in this QAnon thing, but ... Isn't it terrible about all these children getting kidnapped? And I want to do something about it. And first, I didn't, my red flag is going up. Like, what are you talking about? Where are all these children that are disappearing? I forgot. I didn't catch that story.
Right.
Where is this happening? And so it comes from, for a lot of folks, right? Before the politics entered into it with the election, I think most folks got drawn in from that.
Oh,
is that what you found also?
Yeah, that's a major thing. By the way, when did you first hear about QAnon?
August or September, October. Let's say September 2018.
Okay, you were in quite early. What about you, Taryn?
I'd like to say probably around the same time. It had been. I mean, I was following Pizzagate when that happened, and it just sort of morphed into Q.
Right.
So, yeah.
I wish I'd followed QAnon sooner, because I could have sold more books, but also it would have meant earlier on I would have been recognized as an expert. I mean, if you want to talk about a money angle, the guys who run the QAnon podcasts, like Travis Few, and two others, they make $60,000 a month from their podcast.
Karen, get on that. I'll Travis you immediately.
Isn't that just astounding?
It certainly is.
But that shows how popular QAnon is, or how popular the theory is, and how popular how so many people want to study it, and so they pay X dollars a month to get on the podcast, and they've done enormous work.
What I think it's the opening of your latest book, Doctor. We're with Dr. Jim Beverley, by the way. Very gracious of him to join us here on the ResQ show. One of the first things you say is it's not going away,
right? Because
it has so many adherents and so many influencers, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, I've studied religious groups for over 40 years. That's been my main focus of study. It's really hard for a religion to die. Even in the cases where you kill off, or where most of the group commit suicide, there's some hangers-oners, or whatever the right word is there. I still remember visiting the Branch Davidian place in Waco, and most of the followers died, but there was a handful of true believers who thought David Koresh was phenomenal. So with QAnon having hundreds of thousands of followers, one survey I read had QAnon followers in 107 countries. So if you have a movement in 107 countries, and you have hundreds of thousands of followers, and it's about passionate moral and political beliefs, it's not going to die. Well, The one thing that I think would radically hurt it, and I'm going to try to influence Trump on this, um, I've written a memo uh, that that puts words in Trump's mouth, but I think QAnon would be most hurt if he realized the damage that it does to America. Now, this is separate from, he's not going to write a memo where he's going to dispute his own presidency or abandon his theory that the election was stolen. Leave that aside. I think the president should go public and say, no, I did not work with someone high in the military named Q. As much as I don't like Bill and Hillary Clinton, I don't think they eat the brains or the adrenochrome from kidnapped children. No, as much as I don't like Obama, I don't think he was part of an international cartel of child kidnappers. No, I don't think John McCain was executed under my government. No, I don't think JFK is still alive. I think if Trump came out with a clear message about the irrational elements in QAnon, and basically say this is a largely, not completely, but largely irrational movement, I'm actually going to try to get that kind of memo to him. I have a couple of friends who know him and have been in the White House, and so I'm going to try to get a memo to him, or just send it directly to his place in New Jersey where he's moved to.
You moved to New Jersey?
Yeah, he in the summer he gets out of hot Florida and goes to Bedminster, New Jersey. He has a resort there, a golf course.
I'll be darned. I'm from New Jersey originally.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not far from there right now, actually. I'll go pay him a visit. I'll deliver your memo. I'm sure it'll work out fine.
I'll send it to you.
That's
You know, I'm after 5 years of studying Trump, I just find it amazing all that it takes to figure him out. Because you got, no one's except maybe Satan. No one's totally wrong, totally evil, totally dumb. And I know that the left wing despise him so much they can hardly say anything kind about him, which I understand, because in a way, Republicans now have to make a decision. What are they going to do with Trump? Is he going to be their man in 2024? Is he going to run for Speaker of the House in 2022? My view to Republicans is they should stick with Trump if he looks at his negatives and changes them. Now how's that hoping for something that probably won't happen?
Well, I present proof of things that probably won't happen can happen, which is the Eagles can win a Super Bowl. Okay, and there's my proof. So it's not impossible, right? With God, all things are possible.
Yeah,
so, right. Just to admit that maybe I was off on these things, and I'm not perfect, and I'm going to try better. And here's some things I definitely don't think are right. And read your memo. That would I agree with you. That would be the most effective weapon.
Hey, now let me ask you two. What do you two think of Trump? What's your balanced perspective?
Taryn, why don't you go first?
I try to not think of Trump that often because I am more concerned with the way people are reacting around him. And I find that to be kind of the fascinating aspect of it. Watching really good friends online just fighting over what we all should think of him one way or another. And I sort of refused to become, at a certain point, I refused to become enmeshed in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because something is so peculiar when someone has that level of charisma or anti-charisma. As far as I'm concerned, they're somewhat narcissistic, and I don't like to speculate on people I don't know, even public figures. So I don't feel comfortable even quite saying that. I do not know the man. The reaction to him has been quite the roller coaster ride for all of us. And I guess I'm sorry, that's something of a non-answer, but it's the truth. I mean, I'm like, what is the deal?
What about you, Christopher?
Oh, I didn't know I'd be interviewed today. I have a lot of thoughts on the man, and I won't say a lot of them other than as a believer and as in a pastoral way of thinking about things and helping the church when I can. I was very disappointed in the fact that he used, our people to that really depended on us and the claims to be one of us to elevate his campaign and to collect power and things of that nature. I mean, again, I'm from New Jersey. Like, I'm from the New York City area. I've known the guy for years and years, and not known him personally, but seen what he was about and everything in the news since I was a kid.
Right.
So I'm familiar with how he works and the art of the deal and all that stuff. So I was never a fan personally. Of course, I'm willing to give people benefit of the doubt. He won the presidency. I love what moving the embassy to Jerusalem. In general, conservative policies and taxes and things like that are all good. But then there was this underbelly of this anti-Sermon on the Mount way of life.
Now, as I said earlier, I have friends who know him, and one of my best friends is close friends with the pastor who knows Trump the best. Someone who has Trump's private cell phone, who's been in the White House many, many, many times. Now, this person, who's a respected, prominent evangelical leader, he believes that Trump is a believer. Now, Trump is not going to announce publicly that he's not. But one of my approaches with him, if I could influence him, would be, President Trump, you claim to be a Christian. You, at certain moments, talk like a Christian. Well, to quote you, Christopher, that means you need to live by the Sermon on the Mount. And, of course, talking about the areas where Trump needs to change, I'd want to do another memo and send it to certain Democratic leaders who I believe are off the rails in terms of deception and lies. Have you two studied the claim that Trump over the Charlottesville rally, that Trump said that Nazis and their opponents, it's good people on both sides? Have you studied that?
Yeah,
No.
I remember the statement of that.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
so that's a famous example. That is said 1,000 times. What it said is Trump's the kind of guy who thinks that Nazis and your regular Charlottesville citizen, while there's good people in the Nazis and good people on the other side. Well, listen, he never said that. He was talking about divided views about whether Confederate monuments should allowed to remain standing. And he said there's good people on both sides of that debate. But that's been twisted to say that he's the kind of guy who has good things to say about neo-Nazis. I just heard Barack Obama make the claim again recently. it's a kind of example to show that people don't care to be accurate. Trump has actually given quite a few interviews to say, no, I'm not in favor of neo-Nazis. I never said it. So
Right.
anyway,
Yeah. That's an amazing example of dirty politics. Just
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of what led to QAnon? I mean, that culture that now, hating your enemies and just making up stuff about them or taking things completely out of context and
Right.
really playing dirty,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that kind of energized the whole rebound against that? Like, hey, well, they do this, and
Right.
won't worry
Oh,
about
yeah.
it if it happens on our side.
It's sort of like you have to choose sides. It's like I'm watching NHL Stanley Cup playoffs now. Well, you pick a side. Is it New York Islanders or Tampa Bay? Same with, who did you mention earlier won the Super Bowl? The Eagles?
Oh, that was the Eagles, yes. Even
No.
though it's been several years now.
Now, is that Philadelphia?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't watch the football that much. But anyway, when you're watching, I take it you like Philadelphia?
I do.
Okay, when you're watching, who's their chief enemy?
Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, when you're watching those two teams, you're basically picking one side.
Yep. And you can't ever like the other one.
Yeah, and
Not allowed.
you don't interrupt the game to tell the ref that he missed a call against Philadelphia,
Oh, you don't.
right?
Very uncouth. No.
So
no
that's
way.
what politics is like. You choose a side, and it's take no prisoners. And the trouble is, it leads to the current situation in America.
Yeah, I mean that's it exactly, and that's where I am frustrated with people of our faith that are so caught up in it. Well, let's put it like this: some people are called into politics, so that's fine. Like, absolutely respect that. But the people like me who sit and vote and we're on the sidelines are so angry that they can't seem to have a discussion, and it's always yelling about the left. And it's like, look, isn't the mark of our faith that we examine ourselves for sin? What do we have to do to clean house among ourselves? Because that's what is a transformative principle. I don't care if it's politics or anything else. We know that love, that kind of love and honesty, is what we need to reform ourselves, and then we can address.
Yeah. What complicates it in America now is the fight over COVID and masks, and whether you should take the vaccine. So that's just another world of people just live in two separate realities. Like I'll get a vaccination, or not a chance. The vaccination's going to make you sicker than if you got COVID.
Yeah,
Right. Think of the extremes, and that's what we've got.
Yep. Now, one thing, there's another example where, unless you're an expert, you're at the mercy of what other people tell you or whoever you follow. I just watched a woman 2 days ago give a 20-minute speech saying that COVID is created by the Chinese. It's part of Bill Gates and George Soros's plan to make money and to control the population. And it was mainly used so that Trump could be defeated in 2020. And you should not get the vaccine. The virus isn't as bad as they say. Now, this woman was actually a medical doctor. So she's using a whole bunch of medical terms. I have no idea if she's telling the truth. I've sort of accepted the main narrative of most people in Western medicine. So I've already been vaccinated once, and supposed to get the next vaccine in a week or two.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's even, like, one can tell online, right? People share these now images of fearless leader on the left, on the right, but, looking rugged, like, here's the president looking, he's gonna kick some butt today. And you can tell that they look at these cheesy propaganda images and they get some kind of endorphin rush. So
Right.
I'm just like, I'm creeped out by this. This isn't the United States of America that I know. This is like,
Right. Yeah, in a way, I don't think there's been anything like it in American history. The adulation of Trump. Now, there's a different kind of adulation for Barack Obama. I mean, he was viewed as a messiah figure,
Yep.
but it was never. It was a different kind of style. Like the liberal adulation, I think, has a different flavor than the adulation of Trump.
yeah, the Obama face was the
Yeah.
looking into the future, Fargate, and then the Trump is the war face.
By the way, do we know if most of your audience are pro QAnon, anti QAnon, indifferent? Well, they're not.
We're trying to figure that out still because we're presenting this as hopefully like a fact-filled situation where we're asking questions, and as believers, that's our core value of it. Is as Christians, we want to tell you that there's lots of truth claims going around, especially with Q. And if you're caught up in it, because Karen and I both intimately know folks who are totally in it, believers. And so what's the best way to get them out or to help them or to offer support? That's our bottom line goal with this. So I would hope we would get all of those, parts of the universe viewing and
it'd be interesting if you see if you can get a QAnon promoter to come on your show and do a exchange of ideas and see how that goes.
That
I
would be
love
excellent.
it. Yeah, love it.
It's difficult to also, it's difficult to conceive of doing anything other than just starting dialogue between ourselves and Q people. I mean, if a person is in the movement and they're not convinced by the amount of Q drops that were false,
Right.
and the platform of, like you have said, which is a brilliant point.
How disgusting the 8Q and 8chan and 4chan are.
Yeah, why would a big, amazing,
Yeah.
high top security clearance person use those?
Right.
There's no explanation for that is satisfactory whatsoever.
This is something I want. Sorry, Dr. Jim. I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
This is, I think, why it exploded from the recesses of the internet, where all this dirty stuff happens, to the mainstream, is because of such a giant tent. What did you call it? A cosmic vacuum cleaner?
Yeah. Or cosmic suction pump.
Yeah, because I think that was kind of the design in the end, was to be this giant, clearinghouse of anything you could imagine. Yep, this is connected. Yep, this is connected. It's all one big thing. And so if you hate the evil of child, kidnapping, and you hate the adrenochrome used by the Hollywood elites, and if you hate the stolen election, all y'all are welcome. And I think my impression is, from studying these things now, unfortunately, for many months, is that most adherents, would you tell me your opinion of this? Do you agree that most adherents, most who subscribe to some QAnon talking points, that they really don't know the full story? They don't know where it comes from. And they're just kind of glomming onto one specific area.
Yeah. The earliest QAnon promoters had the brains to realize we better put the Q drops out in a sanitized form. We can't just leave them at 8Q, because if people go on there and start searching around, I mean, you can get the most. Well, in the same world where you get the Q drops, you get people outside of the Q world, but people on those channels saying that they would love to rape Melania Trump or Ivanka. So Tracy Beans and others realized they better get the Q drops put out through other aggregators, and so I bet 90% of QAnon followers have never been to 8Q.
Yeah.
Maybe not that high, but
That is true.
You're probably right.
the other thing, there's a seductive appeal to thinking that you're connected to a guy who's connected to Trump, right? That's quite amazing. And when I used to read the posts regularly, I was excited by hearing that there was a new post, and I didn't think Q was who he said he was or who they said they were, but it's still, there's the drama of that appeal that you're on the inside.
Right.
Where do you think this is all headed?
In a way, everything depends on what happens with Trump. If he goes off the scene, say he decides that he's not going to run again, and he doesn't want to be involved, that would make a huge difference in America. But it looks like he wants to go public in a bigger way and maybe run in 2024. So that means the QAnon world will continue because they basically love him. So I think we'll have QAnon for quite a while, but Trump could make the difference.
The bakers in the movement, it seems to me like they may be taking it over.
Well, they're the main people. I mean, whoever Q was, is, or whoever they were, he's off the scene. So now it's the major teachers who spread the new QAnon theories,
Right.
and keep pushing Trump. I mean, no, you're not going to survive as a Q promoter if you go against Trump. Just like what people are doing now in the Republican world. They're making calculations. Do I want to risk my Senate seat or House seat by going against Trump? Do I have a chance of running for president if I oppose, or running for Republican leadership? I'm fascinated that Mike Pence, it looks like he's continuing to be interested in being the next president. I can't imagine that universe. Once he refused to do what Trump wanted on January 6th, I think his campaign is dead in the water. I was also amazed that President Trump expressed interest in having Pence as his running mate if he runs in 2024. I just find that astounding. Yeah,
so do I.
He said that recently.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to make of that.
Right.
I don't know what to think of that either.
After all of these accusations about how he's not strong enough and doesn't have the fortitude to do something about it, and those lines are exactly why that, whatever you want to call it, insurrection on the 6th happened, because they believed that if they just stopped Mike Pence from doing this, that Trump could stay. So how could you make him cast him as such a villain to the world,
right
over here, and then yet, oh yeah, sure, I'll run with him again.
Well, what's amazing is when January 6th happened, Trump didn't reach out to Pence. They have since met, I think, twice. But here's what's amazing to me. Pence, the only thing Pence has said is that it looks like Trump and I will never agree about January 6th. He's not, as far as I know, he's not said anything publicly about Trump's trashing of him on January 6th. Although my personal view on that one is I think Trump has a right to be upset with Pence because he never said, until January 6th, he never said that he wouldn't do what Trump wanted. He only said it on the 6th. And that's when the crowd heard about him releasing a statement saying, I am not going to stop the Electoral College from doing its due diligence. When Pence said that, that's when the crowd turned against him. And that's when people put up a noose and said, let's hang Pence. But if I was Trump, I would have felt betrayed because through November, December, and early January, Pence talked like he was on Trump's side on that issue. What a mess.
Say that again. It was. I was, all along in that, and I'm from that world too. Of campaigns and running stuff like that, and seeing elections play out. And I just assumed that he didn't say anything because he was afraid of what might have happened. Maybe that he would be replaced, or some accident would befall him before that. So he's just waiting for the last second till he can exit safely, which he almost didn't do anyway. I mean, I don't know. That's just an opinion, but you would think that up to that point, Pence was, like you say, very closed, tight-lipped about any type of criticism or disagreement.
Right, and he was very, very pro-Trump at rallies up until January 6th. And then, so I imagine what he did is he either made a calculated decision, I'm only going to tell what I'm going to do at the very last minute because I don't want to be a victim of Trump's anger. I just read a couple of articles last night that said as soon as Trump knew that he allegedly lost the election, he focused completely on how am I going to get this back? And he turned against anybody who didn't choose his view that the election was stolen. So when Sidney Powell and Flynn and the two others were in the Oval Office, they had vicious shouting matches with Trump's advisors. Most of Trump's advisors told him, "You lost the election. It's over. You should concede." And these four people are crazy. And Giuliani was brought in on a phone call, so he was part of it. They were yelling at one another and angry, and it's partly because I think those four, plus Rudy, Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn, Mike Lindell, and Patrick Byrne, I think they honestly, I think they are all believers. I think they think the election was stolen. And then if you really believe that, you're going to want the president to fight their main thing was that China took over the computer systems in the swing states and gave votes to Biden through hacking. Well, if you really believe that, well, then you go down that path. I think that explains stuff. And what I would love is, why doesn't somebody in America figure out how to sort out that core issue? Like, did China hack into the computers on November 3rd? Well, I don't know anything about
That's
reading.
okay. Well, because we don't like to listen to Canadians. That's the number one reason. And
Well, I always wanted to be an American.
you're in. It's okay. The CISA or whatever they call the cybersecurity infrastructure, yada yada. They did come out and say right after, like a week or two, whatever it was after the Trump administration people, there was no hacking. We know this for sure, and we're the technical computer people. But that was not good enough. They just ignored that and said, that's the deep state guy.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, what would be neat is, let's say we get Rachel Maddow. Let's name some major anti-Trump people. Rachel Maddow. Who else?
Anyone at MSNBC or CNN or.
Yeah. Okay. So let's pick. We'll pick some major media people on the left, some major politicians on the left, team them up with major media and political people on the right, and academics on the left and right, along with computer experts, and we'll figure out a way where it's agreed that, say, we'll pick the computer evidence from not all 6 swing states or 7. We'll pick 2 states, and we'll look at the evidence.
Be a good reality show, perhaps.
Well, see, Mike Lindell, you know what he's claiming? In mid-July, he's renting a significant public venue, and he's inviting computer experts in to examine his evidence that he got on January 16th, I believe. And he says that once everyone sees the evidence, the Supreme Court will vote 9-0 to bring Trump back.
Really?
Yep, that's what he says.
This is a wild time we're living in.
I can't wait for mid-July.
I hope folks understand the law. Like, people who don't understand the election law here, that's not possible.
Okay,
there's literally no way, zero, that anyone can become president other than Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, the regular succession plan. There is no Supreme Court can't do anything, no matter what evidence there is.
Christopher,
that time is over.
Are you saying that America is run in such a way that if 90% of Americans knew that China switched millions of votes to Biden, there's no way for the government of the United States to deal with that?
Not post facto, no.
Yeah, well, I don't know American legal systems. And actually, to your credit, you're picking up something that Patrick Byrne has said. He says that even if they can prove that the election was stolen, because of the way the Constitution and the laws are written, it's too late to change it.
That's correct.
But other people say, no, that's not true. And we should, by the way, the people listening, they must think I'm some sort of nut who believes every conspiracy theory. Because I'm willing to talk about, let's check out the computers. I just want to try to think if there's a way where people could figure out what the truth was.
You're just trying to provide a public service.
Yeah, there you
go. It's refreshing because most of us anymore, I think, my opinion, obviously, I don't know everybody, but it seems like we just want what we want and then make it true.
Right.
Rather than find out what is true.
Wait, actually, I'm sorry to interrupt. I actually have my pastor is on the line, and he has some input as Pastor Randy's. Is it actually possible that we can have Trump reinstalled at any time soon?
Wrong answer.
Okay, so apparently that's not possible. Randy has chimed in. I just wanted to get.
Thank you, Pastor Randy.
I saw his picture.
Yep, he just comes and goes like that.
Okay.
He flutters in and flutters out.
Yeah. But he'll also tell you when you're right. So that's good too.
You know, one thing that I should know better than most people is how hard it is to convince people that they're wrong. So I became a professor when I was 24 and I started studying cult groups. So, you know, cult groups are supposed to be the wackiest groups going, you know, the obvious false ones and et cetera, et cetera. Well, listen, I know from studying cult groups for over 40 years, some of them are so wacky, it's hard to imagine. But the people who believe in a particular group, it is not easy for them to see that they're in dangerous false territory. The best example of that is a group called breatharianism, run by a woman in Australia, and she says that you should be able to live on air alone. Okay, see, based on everything I've ever heard, you're supposed to eat food, right? And you're supposed to drink water. Well, she has a following, and some of her believers have died because they try to learn to live on air.
Yeah, I have followed that group myself as well. That's one of the interesting groups of people out there.
Yep.
But I mean, my background is also studying cults, not professionally, but from college on, and I mean, we always tend to marginalize them or act as if it couldn't happen to us, and it's usually a set of emotional conditions when an intelligent human being enters groups like that. They're usually primed for the kind of support.
Or it can be as simple as my mommy and daddy are followers.
Yes.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
one of the most famous critics of Reverend Sun Myung Moon,
Mm-hmm.
he was raised in the group. His father was quite well known in America, and he didn't know any other world other than the world that Reverend Moon is the Messiah. He's the return of Jesus. And then when he was like, I think just either 9 or 10 or just early teenage years, he started to read the Bible. And imagine if you've not really studied the Bible and you know it's the main book about Jesus, and then you read it and realize Reverend Moon is not the return of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this guy, his name's Hae Sung, he started the most important website about Reverend Moon. Now, he did it secretly. He became a believer in Jesus. He started this website secretly. It's called How Well Do You Know Your Moon? It's the most important website on Reverend Moon. His parents now know he's a believer, and they respect his liberty to believe that. Anyway, it's amazing that we're all in our worlds of beliefs, and we're so sure of things, and then it turns out, we might be wrong. Except for me, of course. I'm in a completely true and pure bubble
all the time
and never made any mistakes. I was telling a doctor yesterday, when people are so convinced of something, they can't imagine a universe where they're wrong. About 20 years ago, I had spinal surgery and had an infection, and I was in the hospital for 3 months. I lost 40 pounds. Anyway, I was really sick, and my identical twin brother, came to visit me. So I asked him to go get me a drink of water because I'm not walking. I had to learn to walk again, or get strength to walk. Anyway, I was in bed, and so he went to get me a drink, and my doctor came in when he was in the kitchen getting a drink. So this doctor looks at my identical twin, thinks it's me, and he goes, "Oh my God, you're walking. This is unbelievable." And my brother says, "Yeah, I'm walking." And he just kept saying things like that. And finally my brother brought him back to my room, and the doctor realized his worldview was wrong. So it's hard sometimes to change our minds and admit we're wrong.
That's
And
right.
we always are wrong about it. A lot of things. I'm wrong all the time.
And how do we? Right. I mean, folks, this is kind of our goal here. Is like, what's the most effective way to make someone realize, not make them realize it, but to guide them to that conclusion, and then to, like you say, it's like the Sung Young Moon's that guy who came out of it. The most effective advocates against something that's not true is someone who used to believe it.
Right. Insiders who realize that the emperor has no clothes.
Right.
I'm hoping if there's QAnon followers listening, I hope they get my book and read the material and examine the evidence. I'd also love to hear from people. If you can give out my email if you want. I'd love to hear from people, and I'd love to hear their specific views. Where do they think QAnon is right? Where do they think it's wrong? What do they think of Trump, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously we told you about Twitter. You can reach Dr. Jim that way at Jim Beverley. He has a website, jamesbeverley.com, and obviously links to all this stuff. You can go to Amazon. Many, many ways to reach out to him if you'd like to. I'm sure he'd love to.
Yeah, and my email is one of the emails is Professor Jim Beverley, Ley on the end, Beverley @gmail.com.
There you are. Thank you, sir. I was looking for it right there, but thank you. Please, so reach out to Dr. Jim. He'll be happy to speak with you, and we're so appreciative of your time here with us, sir.
My pleasure, Christopher and Karen.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back anytime.
Yep.
You have
I'd
been
be glad to.
Please let us know. Yeah, anything new.
I'm going to be working on trying to figure out my own view of what happened early on that shaped QAnon. Who are the people in Trump's orbit that helped make QAnon famous? And then also, I'm honestly going to try to get my book to Trump, and I've got this memo for him. I might just turn it into an article somewhere saying, Mr. President, leave aside the election issue, leave aside your future. Could you help America by warning your followers about the dangers of QAnon? I mean,
appeal to patriotism. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. If he cares about America, he would do something to warn Americans about all the ways that QAnon is false, dangerous, superstitious, based on hearsay. The QAnon people will say the nastiest things without even blinking. For example, Joe M., who isn't public anymore as far as I know, he might have gone back on, he might have got a Telegram site, but Joe M. said that Joe Biden had his first wife and child killed in the car accident. There, he says that. It's just a passing sentence. It's like, well, that kind of reality is so absolutely disgusting.
Exactly.
And so many are in it that
Yep.
Believers have got to stand up and say something.
When Joe M. wrote that about Biden, he had hundreds of thousands of followers, and I didn't hear any massive outcry against Joe M.
So I do have a final point in wrapping up from myself as one believer to another. To anyone else watching, it doesn't matter if you're interested in studying the Q movement, or if you're somewhat in it or outside of it. I think the major point today that we all sort of danced around, that I think is very important for all of us to take home, is real humility is being willing to say I was wrong, and to say it easily and to say it graciously. And let's all do that. Let's all be willing to be wrong. It's often we tend to think of humility as something like when we get a compliment to say, oh, no. But that's not really humility. Humility is when we are up on our soapbox and then we realize, oh, yeah, okay, my whole soapbox is messed up. But we're all human, and of course we're wrong sometimes.
Right. Great point.
Only Jesus is the truth. Yeah.
That's how we find the truth too, not just research, but saying maybe I'm only, seeing a tiny facet of this.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Well, great to be with you guys.
Thank you so much.
So good to have you.
Again, anytime. Apparently, you've got material now for even more inclusion in your QAnon research. So, we'll be happy to have you whenever you'd like to, sir.
Yeah, I'm away next week, but sometime maybe in July, I'd love to be back with you.
Awesome. I love you, man. Thank you so much. We will definitely be in touch, and you should get in touch with Dr. Jim as well. And thank you, my friend. We will speak soon.
Okay.
All
Have
right.
a great day.
You as well, sir.
You as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye.
Farewell.
What a great guy, man.
Oh, yeah.
So this has been a rescue show. We didn't know how long we'd get to speak with Dr. Jim there, but that was quite helpful for me. I trust for you as well.
Totally. I'm excited. That was a great talk.
Yeah.
So,
and he really didn't even scratch the surface of what he's been doing, or what he wrote about. So, I mean, both Taryn and I now have these books, and super makes sense. I kind of wish I had it earlier. It didn't come out, this latest one, I guess, till a couple weeks ago. But if last year would have been very, very helpful to do that. And I think I wanted to bring up the documentaries and all that stuff that had come out, and hopefully you folks are checking those out as well. I do highly, even though they're kind of rated R in content, to check out that HBO documentary if you have HBO, called Into the Storm. And then the what was the one on Vice? Called?
Oh dear, Qanon. Let me look it up. I have it right here somewhere.
Yeah, well, and in those 30 seconds it'll take. Right.
Yeah.
There's so those are the two major ones. I guess there might even be more coming, but those are real good resources just for vanilla academic style. Like, okay, this has happened here, this happened at that time, this person was involved with this person, and just kind of putting those puzzle pieces together to how this all came about and then got so big, and the influencers like Dr. Jim was saying. Did you find it, Taryn?
Yes, QAnon, the search for Q.
The search for Q. There you go. Okay, right. So that's the Vice one, and that's free. Just go to the Vice website thing, or just check that out, and you can watch it all. It's a couple hours long, and the HBO one's 6 hours long. So they really do get into some stuff. Where that one was specifically looking at who Q actually is, and try to get to the bottom of that. I think if you put those two documentaries together, and if you do some basic reading, if you have kind of just followed the news, you can get a pretty good picture, I think, about what happened and how it happened. And then once you put in, hopefully we're helping you to put also in the spiritual dimension of that, right? And the moral dimension of it, how believers can, actually believe this stuff. Then we're getting a full view, and maybe, hopefully then folks will say, well, maybe this was not a good thing to be a part of, even if I didn't know it. That's a lot. That keeps coming up, like, oh, I'm not part of, I don't believe that stuff, but yet I believe almost every main tenet of it. So you kind of, what do they say? The proof's in the pudding, right? I mean, like, I would say the rubber meets the road. I don't know, one of those.
Yeah.
You believe what you believe. I mean, call it what you will. If you subscribe to these things that are very, very suspect or just flat out nonsense, and then you not only believe it yourself, but you're telling others that it's real, now we've got a problem. And now we've got a real problem if we're talking about believers, using their platforms to tell other believers. And people who have prophetic gifts and they hear from the Lord on these things, and now they're repeating the same stuff. This is a major. This is my motivation for doing this with Taryn, is to hopefully get you to reconsider if you have, or if you are in our position, which is, boy, how do I help my family or my loved ones or my friends or my church members? How do we do that? What's the best way to do that? Hey, Pastor Jake McCandless has checked in with the love of the hat.
He is all about that hat. And so am I.
Whatever I can do to make Jake happy, I will endeavor to do. Thank you. Yes.
Very, very nice. But it's also, when Dr. Beverley asked us, what do you think of Trump? And I'm kind of like, I'm not publicly answering because I have my opinions about the man's psychology or whatever. But at the end of the day, I do not know him. I will not speculate. It's actually very irresponsible. It would be irresponsible, unkind. And, it's sort of the same principle with believing that someone's drinking blood of children or something like that. And we don't know that. We don't have any primary evidence. Circumstantial evidence is nothing when we talk about claims this big. And
if you have that, which a lot of the times you don't.
Yeah,
other than the claim itself, which is that's not evidence in any way.
Right. Mm-hmm. Our opinions are just opinions at the end of the day, regardless of the evidence we may think we have.
What a mess, Darren. How'd we get into this? Society.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, maybe we'll answer that in future episodes, right?
Maybe, yes.
Yeah. And we thank Pastor Randy also for being part of the show today.
Indeed.
Randy, will you be back on with us at some point?
There you go. Now you got it.
Okay, cool.
Love that guy.
Yeah, he's just real quick in and out. He's always got the pithy, succinct response.
Yeah. Almost like a tidbit.
Almost like a tidbit. Those are good in the mornings.
Or just a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Praise God, Taryn, for you. And thank you for donating your time here to us. And folks, if you want to help us, please share this. Number one, subscribe, hit the little bell to be notified when we go on again, and go to the website and share that too. ResQ with a Q, or ResQ show.com. And again, all your info is going to be there and links. We even have a poll up. Did you know? Take the poll and share that. And it's asking which of these popular beliefs are actually invented by QAnon. In other words, they're not true. They were made up by Q, and it has to do with how many kids go missing every year, the adrenochrome thing, again, being used like a drug by the rich people, Dominion, the evil voting machine company. Did they really do what they have been accused of, etc.? Or maybe it's all not true. So go take that poll as well. All right, friends, till next time. Unless you want to hang out, Taryn, you got nothing better to do today, right?
Oh, never. I do nothing better any day.
No, I don't.
No, pretty much. I can go back to reading my Calvin and Hobbes.
I was just going to say that.
Studying.
See, we got the Holy Spirit working. Apparently, we got to read some Calvin and Hobbes today and take a chill pill, right?
Always. Yeah.
Chill pill before red pills, kids. Always. All right. Praise the Lord, guys. All right. Till next time, then, we will see you. I've been Chris, and that's been Taryn. And please reach out to us. Don't worry about, being a famous person who writes books or whatever. If you want to talk about that, I don't care if you're pro, con, indifferent, agnostic, right? We want to talk to you right here, just like we talked to Professor Jim and Christian last week. So just reach out to us. You see our Twitter handles below. You can reach out securely on email as well. With myself is Pastor Manti, Mantei at protonmail.com, and Taryn's is Tyrannosaurus, Tyrynnosaurus at protonmail.com as well. There's also a contact form right on the website that I mentioned earlier. So use one of those. Get with us, and till next time, we love you. Final thoughts, my friend?
We love you.
That's a
good week. Yeah.
That's a good thought. All right, guys. See ya.